about it. Every single day, you're logging into dozens of services. Use a password, maybe your fingerprint, maybe your face. You're constantly proving who you are. But the real story, the part that truly shapes your digital world, starts the second after that. This right here, this is the single most important question in digital security. Once a system knows it's you, how does it decide what you can actually see, or touch, or change? This, my friends, is the job of authorization. Okay, let's nail this down, because these two terms get mixed up all the time. Authentication is just about verifying your identity. It's like showing your ID at the main gate of a secure building. Authorization, on the other hand, is everything that happens next. It's what decides which doors inside that building will actually open for you. It's all about what you're allowed to do. So, how do these systems make those critical decisions? Well, it's way more complicated than just checking a password. Let's dive in and explore the fundamental models that either grant us the keys to the kingdom or lock us out. First up is the one you've probably run into a million times, even if you didn't know its name: Role-Based Access Control, or RBAC for short. Just think of it like job titles in a company. All your permissions are bundled up and tied to your role, whether that's student, instructor, or admin. Simple as that. Let's make this real. Imagine an online school we'll call the Cyber Deep Dive Academy. If your role is student, you can watch videos and get into the labs. If your role is instructor, you can upload new lessons and grade those labs. But here's the crucial part. A student can never see the grading panels because their role simply doesn't have that permission. You see this model literally everywhere, from big corporate networks using Active Directory to pretty much any online learning platform. And the reason it's so popular? It's just so simple to manage, and it scales up beautifully as an organization gets bigger. But just knowing someone's job title isn't always enough. Sometimes, a system has to enforce universal rules that apply to absolutely everyone. This adds a whole other layer of control. And that brings us to rule-based access control. The best way to get your head around this is to think about traffic lights. It doesn't matter if you're a teenager with a new license or a CEO in a fancy car, a red light means stop, period. The system checks a set of rules, not who you are. Let's hop back to our academy to see how this works. A rule might say labs are only open between 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. That applies to everyone, even the instructors. Or another rule could automatically lock an exam the second it's submitted, or block all downloads during a test. See? These aren't tied to a role. They're system-wide policies. You actually experience rollback all the time. Anytime a firewall blocks a certain type of traffic, or your company's network shuts down access to social media during work hours. Its biggest strength is that its enforcement is totally automatic and completely consistent. So we have access based on your role and access based on the rules. But this brings up a more fundamental question. Who gets to set these permissions in the first place? Is it the person who created the file, or is it the system itself? And that difference is huge. First, let's talk about discretionary access control, or DAC. This is something you do constantly. Think about sharing a file on Google Drive or Dropbox. You created the document, so you, the owner, have the discretion to decide who gets to see it, who can comment on it, and who can edit it. You are in total control. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum is mandatory access control, or MAC. The easiest way to think about this is military clearance levels. With MAC, it doesn't matter who created the file, the system enforces rigid, non-negotiable rules. You either have top secret clearance to see something, or you don't. End of story. The user gets no say. All right, let's put these two head to head. With DAC, an instructor can easily share a PDF with a few specific students. It's super flexible, right? But it can also be risky, because what if they accidentally share it with the whole internet? Now with MAC, the system strictly protects things like student records. An instructor can't override that rule, even if they wanted to. It's incredibly secure, but also very, very rigid. So far, we've looked at who you are, what the rules are, and who's in control. But modern security has to be even smarter. It needs a model that's aware of the entire context of every single request. And this is where attribute-based access control, or ABAC, comes in. It works a lot like a smart building. Before a high-security door opens, it doesn't just check your keycard. It might also check the time of day, if you're in the right part of the building, and if your phone is an approved device. Access is only granted if all of those conditions, all of those attributes, are a perfect match. And this is what makes ABAC so incredibly powerful. For a student at our academy to get into a specific lab, the system runs this rapid-fire checklist. Role equals student, check. Enrolled in Security Plus course? Check. Devices managed by the school? Check. Location approved? Check. Time is within class hours? Check. If even one of those attributes is a no, access is denied. This kind of dynamic, super granular control is exactly why ABAC is the engine behind modern ideas like zero trust architecture, and it's used all over the place by big cloud platforms. It's just powerful and flexible enough to handle the chaos of today's digital world. So we have all these models: RBAC, RuBAC, DAC, MAC, and ABAC. You might be thinking, okay, so which one's the best? But that's actually the wrong question to ask. The real secret to powerful security is making them all work together. And here's the biggest takeaway. In any real organization, one model is never enough. You don't protect a castle with a single lock on the front door. You use layers of them. Real security comes from combining these models, letting each one do what it does best. Let's see how our Cyber Deep Dive Academy would actually do this. They'd start with RBAC for the basic roles like student and admin. Then they'd layer on RuBAC for those time restrictions. They'd use DAC so instructors can easily share their own materials. For the really sensitive stuff like payment info, they'd lock it down with MAC. And finally, for secure remote access, they'd use ABAC as the core of a zero trust policy. So let's do a super quick recap. RBAC is all about who you are. RuBAC is about when and how you can do things. DAC focuses on who owns the data. MAC says forget all that, the system decides. And finally, ABAC brings it all together and says context is everything. These models all working together in these complex layers. They're the invisible gatekeepers of your entire digital life. So the question I want to leave you with is this. As our world gets more and more connected, and these systems get more powerful, who do you ultimately trust to be setting all these rules? And are they getting it right?